welcome everybody to the Ottawa City Commission study session. We'll start with public comments. Do we have any?
We do. We have two registered, Angie Malik and Tiffany Wyatt, both to talk about the Safe Haven Baby Box.
Okay, come on up, please. Yeah,
All right.
state your name and address for the record.
I'm Angie Malley. It's 1878 Jackson Road.
I'm Tiffany Wyatt. I live at 1 Southwest High Drive, Ottawa.
Good afternoon, ladies.
Basically, I was here, I believe it was back in June, about the Safe Haven Baby Box, and we were going to start fundraising. We have been fundraising since July, and we've raised around $5,500. And we have reached a point where we believe that we might need more additional help. And it's our understanding that the city could possibly have, and the county, because the county and the city both benefit from the Safe Haven Baby Box and surrounding areas. That we, that you guys might have some funds that you could allocate toward the Safe Haven Baby Box to help get it installed.
So we're just petitioning to see if there's any funds that could possibly be donated to getting a Safe Haven Baby Box here in Franklin County.
Do you have anything numbers wise of what you're requesting?
We're going to ask for $5,000 from the city and the county, just because the box itself is $11,000. We have been we've been pledged that the labor to put by a construction company, local construction company, that they would put the baby box in for us. However, it's just a pledge, and that's not including any materials that they may need.
Okay.
And we are still fundraising as individuals within the community. We are still reaching out and looking for different options of raising funds here. So we haven't stopped funding. We are still fundraising for it, but this is just another avenue that we want to.
And I have reached out to I think it's Kelsey Morris for the Life Care Center, the executive director. She has sent me a letter about 10 minutes before our meeting today that I would like to email you guys so you guys can read that. But she has full support of the baby box being here installed, and also Lieutenant Mike Wilson with the fire department is here to show his support also.
I'm glad Life Care, I think that maybe they can give you some advice and some help, maybe financial help, I don't know. But 15,000 would take care of the whole project, you feel?
We believe so.
Do you know on that, since legislation was just passed last year or early this year, is there any requirements for the funding from us, from what it can come from in terms of tax money, anything like that?
It's not supposed to be taxpayer funded. So that's when we're asking for funds, we're looking for I don't know, I've heard of the transient tax that you guys might have available, but I mean, I don't know how that is dispersed. So that's why I was coming to you guys, so you guys could talk about it.
Commissioner, do you have any other questions for him?
Transient guest tax isn't available to us, unfortunately.
Be a great
We just
question for the
don't-
county for
yeah.
sure.
Okay.
The county certainly has capacity there.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you
And-
both.
almost all of that money comes from the city of Ottawa.
Okay.
Yes,
All right. Well, yeah, like I said, didn't know how that all works, so good to know.
Thank you.
And Attorney Finch, on that, would you be able to find out or know in terms of statute legally what we would be able, if we were able to do money, if what we would be able to do, kind of how that would work, if there's anything in the law that was passed?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
both. Was that the only two public comments? Great, thank you. All right, that moves us on to items to be placed on the regular city commission agenda, which is our minutes from the October 16th study session. Commissioners, did you have a chance to review? And if so, are you okay with moving that on to the next agenda? Okay, that's what we'll do. Thank you. All right, items for presentation and discussion. The first one is to consider a request from the Ottawa Community Partners, Inc., the OCPI, to participate with matching funds for the completion of Legacy Square in the amount of $475,526.47. Director Landis, you want to come on up? Good afternoon.
Afternoon. So in your packet today, there is the memo is intended to be a summary of the history of the Legacy Square project and the city's participation in that project. And so everything that's in the background is our participation at the beginning of the project. And then the rest of it is basically an analysis or a reminder that this is what the request has been of us from the group. And you've heard from the group the last couple of meetings. And so you've got a good understanding of what they are asking for. And so under financial considerations, and in our last meeting, you specifically asked that we bring back to you an idea of how this might be funded and whether or not the use of some of our funds that were originally under the ARPA funding were eligible for this project. And so what we did under the financial consideration section was to go ahead and give you a breakdown of that and the history of what we received as the city. If you'll remember, we did dedicate those as revenue replacement funds. We elected to do that before the deadline early on, and that was more than a year ago. And then the use of the funds to date. And those are all items that have been brought to you at previous meetings, whether they were through a bid and acceptance format or whether they were a contracted, one of them's a transfer. All of those things are items that you have seen before and we've discussed. For quite some time, though, all of those items have been in progress and we haven't brought anything brand new to you. Outside of those items that have been discussed with you, there's about $906,000 remaining in of those funds. And we do have a kind of a laundry list of items that those funds could be used for. Some of those were golf acquisition, the golf course, remainder of the golf course acquisition, the renovation of our commission chambers, various recreational improvements, and then of course this item that's been brought to your attention. So I'm happy to discuss the financial side of it. City Attorney Finch is happy to talk about what this would look like going forward, should you elect to move ahead with funding this. So it's really about what you'd like to discuss at this point, unless you really want me to go through this in detail.
On the ARPA money, we have a deadline, it has money that has to be spent down. What, you know what that date is, we'll be looking at.
Yeah, so it needs to be committed by December 31st of 2024. It needs to be completely spent by December 31 of 2026. So by committed, it has to be under contract before December 31st of next
So a
year.
little more than a year.
Mhm.
I've just had some people indicate that they would like to see this money go toward our pool that we plan to build instead of Legacy Square. But we're not in the planning stages yet or anything concrete with regard to our pool. Would that be a fair argument, or how would that look?
I think we're in the planning stages, but the reality of it being built by the 2026 is.
That would be the challenge. And we don't want to lose out on this ARPA money. There's a chance we've got it. We need to use it according to the parameters that we've been given and within time frame too. So
We absolutely have a laundry list of projects that would fit within the time frame in order for it to be completely spent.
Commissioners, do you have any other questions for Director Landis? Okay. Would you like to hear anything from a representative from OCPI?
Things would be new to.
You guys have anything new that you added? Okay. City manager, would you like to add anything? I know you're on here too, just in case.
We know that this Legacy Square is something that is of importance to the community and was an item that in my recruitment was addressed in early on, including in the advertising brochure. And we know that there is some timelines that need to be met. We still have several weeks for that, but whatever decisions rendered, I think the sooner the better, but we certainly have time to take a week or so. But I would recommend that a decision one way or the other be rendered at the next study session if possible.
All right, commissioners, at this point, what would you like to discuss?
I guess I'd like to ask the committee, the OCPI, I mean, is there a plan B if this much money can't be raised? I don't know if there's a scale down model you've considered or looked at, or we're kind of going for this project we're seeing here before us today. I often say we live in a plan B world, and how that works, but
I would say that at this point, we haven't discussed a plan B. But certainly our plans did include coordinating with the city on anything that ultimately happens there. And so feel like, you know, from this point forward, we're going to walk hand in hand with city and city staff to make sure that whatever occurs, that we're all in agreement on what that might be.
then I know we're looking at a matching of this number, so what happens if we don't get it matched? What do we-
Kind of feel like we've got pledges in hand from fashion, from a concrete company to both provide the material and the labor associated with it. And so
We're there practically speaking.
absolutely, I believe that we are there.
Following along with that plan B, if nothing were to happen, you know, maybe you can't acquire the property for whatever reason may come up. That gap, the 475 is still existing on Legacy on the current property.
That is correct.
Okay.
But we have, you know, the land that is in our name, we intend to sign over to the city. The appraised value for that is not insignificant. And we've taken basically a blighted area and made something very useful out of it. So we kind of feel like it is that we've accomplished the goals that originally were set out whenever when this idea was born, by the number of events and the improvements to the area. We've taken I think you could consider it a blighted area, and we've made something beautiful out of it and useful.
Since I wasn't here when this occurred, could you kind of set the picture for what was there? And you know, what's there today, and kind of walk through that iteration of the site development?
So, and I'm not a lifelong Ottawa resident. I've been here for 30 years, but you know, that still doesn't qualify me entirely, but on the north end of the block where Legacy Square sits was a building that I think there was a fire. Ultimately, the building got demolished, and most of it was buried right where it fell. We removed all that material, didn't we? And created the park space with the downtown restroom. So since did that occur in the 90s, maybe early 90s or late 80s when the building had the fire? So up until we started the Legacy Square project, that was a patch of dirt. And that's all it was ever used for, just a patch of dirt. The part where the parking structures are and the drainage structures, that was a parking lot that the businesses in the area used. And it was functional. We have since taken care of all the, as part of this project, we took care of stormwater issues that were a part of that area. The city helped us out with sanitary sewer extensions and some of those things that were improved, along with improving the alley. And so it was a nondescript single use area. The area where the park is now, the playground, that was, I think there was a building that used to sit there as well. And I think there's still part of a foundation or was, and that's now, that's gone too, I believe. That was taken care of as part of this playground project. So every inch of that property that we have touched has been improved by, magnitude of quite a little bit there. Again, so feel like we've the community has come together, and it's also important to note that up until this point right now, it's primarily been a community project, community led, the fundraising and all of that to the tune of $4.9 million has come from the community. That hasn't happened very often, if ever, in this community.
So what we see there today is approximately 4.9 million worth of improvements.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that,
So would it be, and I'm oversimplifying it, but would it be easy to say that with OCPI possessing both of the parks in that area, that essentially the city for 475, 526.47 could essentially secure the park green space worth 4 million
absolutely,
and get a return on that's 10x to 475.
absolutely. That's definitely accurate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee, has there been any discussions with the property owner on the First and Main?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
I just-
I will say that those meetings, while we don't have things in hand, the circumstances are such that we're here before you. We worked really hard to make this part of the original project. Circumstances at that time prevented us from moving forward with that. We wouldn't be sitting here today if we didn't feel confident enough to bring this before you.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I just didn't want to, have this discussion, make, maybe a decision to do this, and then, that doesn't come to fruition, and the people are like, well, wait a minute, what happened here? So,
Until there's something signed on the dotted
There's a
line,
possibility.
there's always a possibility. But I will say that the conversations that have been had today, there's been a couple of them, have been positive. There haven't been any major red flags or anything else. There's some, with any transaction, there's obstacles to overcome. But again, we wouldn't be sitting here today if we didn't have some level of confidence that we can see this through. Now, it is, I'm not going to tell you it's a done deal.
I understand.
It is still possible that it may not come to fruition, but
What would you tell the people that some contacted me, there has to invest that much money into this project, how it will enhance them? And it's kind of a citywide thing, I realize. And so what would you say to those people who are saying we shouldn't be spending half of our ARPA money on this one project?
well, I would say that that Legacy Square has had over 50 events in that space. And we have some general numbers that aren't scientifically prepared, but we made some assumptions that based on the 58 events that that have gone on there, that if we take, for instance, that 80% of the people that attend the event are from town, from the city limits of Ottawa, with the other 20% being from outside the city limits. That could be out of county, outside the city limits. And if we assign some dollar values to those folks on what they might spend in a given time. So if we say that 60% of the folks that are from in town, whenever they come down to Legacy Square to an event, they're gonna spend $20. And the folks that come from out of town, maybe they're gonna stay in a hotel. And we figure about 80% of those folks are gonna spend some money, and we figure about $100 on each one of those. When you figure all that out, and we think that, you know, again, rough estimates of the number of the people that have attended these 58 events at about 15,000. That's over $300,000 that has been brought back to this community in folks coming to town, eating in the restaurants in the community, staying at the hotels, buying gas, those sorts of things. That's actually, it's closer to 384,000 when you total it all up. That's not a bad run. And we feel like these numbers are probably conservative. We feel like that's probably, there's probably been a bigger impact, and especially if you consider that those dollars turn over multiple times. I think, what is it, 7 times that those dollars turn over in a community like this? We feel like there's been a pretty good return on that investment. And these numbers aren't, there's no, you know, nationally recognized scientific method that we come up with this, but just taking some general, maybe some common sense assumptions. We come up with almost $400,000 worth of return in just a couple of years. And so we feel, you know, those numbers are kind of validate what we think is happening. I think the benefit to the downtown area is significant. I think we have, as in the other presentations that we discussed, some of these events are growing. So that's bringing more people to the community. And so we don't see that ending. We see, you know, lots of opportunity for additional growth, additional events to be occurring in this space because we have it, because it's here. And so, you know, I know folks think that it's just a parking lot, covered parking lot, but it's so much more than that. So much more.
And specific to this project here, and then I was visiting with a business owner on that very block. And he took me outside and showed me there are quite a few vacant buildings, vacant storefronts in the 2-block area right there. And I never realized that until I got looking at it and counting them. And I think in some ways, maybe this artery can help stimulate that part of the downtown. Perhaps we don't know how much, that's all projections, hard to tell how much that will help. But if we need an artery right there in the middle of the block to bring people in, maybe this is what we need to make that happen. And say that with the current business owner that mentioned this issue on that block, perhaps this would help remedy some of those vacancies. You know,
It provides a, you know, in its simplest terms, it provides a short walk from nice parking area to the downtown businesses. Very similar to what you see on Mass Street in Lawrence, where there's these same types of pass-throughs, although ours is gonna look a lot nicer when we're all done, but it will have the same effect.
As you were speaking about people coming into town, coming for events, staying. In this previously, you know, I'm not sure the fundraising from the whole start, was there anything with, you know, Franklin County and the tourism department?
Yeah.
And kind of anything like that?
Yeah, that, I think that through the tourism, they gave well over $100,000 towards this project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And again, if I remember right, our city contribution on the construction, not so much dollars, but some in kind arrangements. And so I'd often wondered at that point why the city did not donate some money toward this, since the city can benefit from this. And so I'm hearing from you, this is our opportunity now to invest where I think we should have 3 years ago.
I think we also want to look at too is that, I mean, if we move forward and this is something we actually, you know, vote to approve this donation, this matching fund experience, or this matching fund opportunity. You're also looking at deeding the land at Walnut and at First Street back to us, which is appraised over the amount that we would be donating to the project. I mean, you're asking for 475,000, but the land is appraised at 510. So granted, I'm not a banker, Mike, but I mean,
I'm not either.
if you, yeah. If you're,
But I get know what you're saying.
I mean, you're $35,000 ahead. And I also believe that there's not too long ago, we actually approved a plan to possibly put some apartments across the street from Legacy Square. Which I wonder if that would be happening if Legacy Square was not there. And we'll never know, thank goodness we'll never know, but certainly some growth there.
Yeah, there's been a number of businesses that have
Yeah.
invested in the community because of the trails, but also because of the investment in Legacy Square. They see this as a sign of forward thinking and a community that's moving forward, and so they have. There's, I think the old city hall is an example of some of that thinking, taking advantage of Legacy Square and the trail system, along with the bike shop. Okay.
From my simple math, I see that if this project moves forward with the improvements that OCPI is proposing, it would be a total of over $6 million with
Mhm.
connecting the legacy. And so the request is right around 8% total of the project. So it's not 80, it's not 18, it's not 48. It's 8, it's right around 8% of the total cost of the project. So when you look at it from that view.
Commissioners, any other comments or questions?
For Director Landis, I guess, I know we had mentioned looking at ARPA, so we weren't using, property tax dollars. Where's there, I mean, you guys from your department, any other thoughts on potential areas of funding if we say we go forward with this, but we don't want to use the ARPA funds? How that might look to you, and you may not have already looked at that, but any ideas? I don't know if special parks or other line items would have any funds, or how that could look.
Unless I have missed something, there is not any other pot of money that might have this amount readily available to dedicate towards this at one time. You mentioned special parks. Special parks will be after the playground and the splash pad. There will be minimal dollars left in there in that fund, so that isn't an option. And we don't just have reserve funds just available for any new project that comes up. Typically, if you had a larger dollar number like this, we would have, planned ahead. We probably would have done some sort of temporary financing or something like that, because we wouldn't necessarily just have that available. It's not just available in the general fund without reducing operational costs or anything like that. So, and it's not specific to any utility fund, so we won't be looking at any of those funds or their reserves.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I got
Please.
a comment. Nobody's mentioned tax dollars, and oftentimes when you do projects, people say you're spending my taxes again. In this case, you're getting your tax dollars, they're coming back to Kansas. They get more money back from Kansas than we pay in. But this time you get a chance to utilize your tax dollars. And in terms of how the whole project plays out, you don't know. It's like anything else. It's an amenity. And we don't do it to generate funds, to generate something for the community, just like the golf course you bought. Hopefully that will draw people to the community. And so a lot of times you do things, you don't expect to get money back, but you expect to get value and services back.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions or comments at this point? If not, what would you like to do with item A? Would you like to put it on vote for today, or would you like to wait another week?
I know I personally had several people reach out and I have not had a chance to get back to all of them. So that's partially on me, so I don't know if you guys have as well. But I always like to, before I would vote, have the actual conversation instead of just receiving their communication. And I know we don't want to push this out, obviously, a long time, but I like to at least return communication to the people that have reached out if possible.
Mayor Pro Tem Skidmore,
I have no problem with waiting another week if we want to need to.
Commissioner Graves,
I'd prefer to wait. I've heard from a few people, but I would love to hear from more from both sides. So I would like to wait as well, just to get more input.
Commissioner Taylor.
I believe there's consensus.
I know, but I just.
Yeah, I was like, there's consensus to, I mean,
Okay,
so let's yield to the
All right.
consensus of the group. That's what we do here.
we will.
We honor
Okay.
everybody's.
We'll put it on the agenda for next Monday then, for another discussion.
Can I, while we're on
Please.
this, I would just like to bring forward that there are funds that are not coming to the city that I think should be potentially, and I think it would be worth our due diligence to potentially reach out to the county, and see if, if this number instead of 475 becomes 375, that looks a whole lot more enjoyable. And see if we can maybe talk about some type of partnership to get some funds from either tourism, guest bed tax, some other option like that. I think before we make a decision on almost $500,000, I would rather have a conversation with them and get told no than not have the conversation because we're too scared to. And I will go talk to them. So I just don't know if anyone has on any of the groups, but I think there are funds there that I think would be remiss to not ask for at least a portion of this. And so I don't know if that's been done. I just think there could be an option that, like we said, this is bringing a lot of money, not to just Ottawa, but Franklin County in general.
Yeah, did they receive ARPA funds too, do you know, county? Sure. There we go.
I think it's a great suggestion, Commissioner Clayton. This is a project that certainly will benefit them too, and it's a great time to be good partners,
Yeah.
for sure.
And so I can go to, I don't know if somebody,
We'll be.
else is in
we'll
communication or
draft, Communications, follow up in person. Yeah,
Do we anticipate we'd have, potentially have a response from them by next Monday?
I couldn't speak for the county on their calendar.
and that would just be my ask if that means it's another week. I hate to push everything another week, but I'd rather reach out and see if there's an opportunity there.
First would be our.
Yeah, we will need a decision next Monday.
I think it's a great idea to reach out to them and certainly take their temperature, for
Mhm.
sure. And it'd be a good idea for them to be a contributor, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, commissioners? Okay, we'll move to review of the third quarter 2023 reports. We'll start with, go ahead, Commissioner Clayton, you're already there.
Oh, gosh, okay. Well, thank you to everyone who put these in, and sorry that you guys got to come to two wonderful meetings with us. Just a few things I had on page 33 for the police
Commissioner
department.
Clayton, if I can.
Oh.
Vanessa has to leave in about 10
Oh.
minutes, so if anybody has anything for her real quick, and
No,
I know
you're good.
Paul Bean was leaving a little bit after that also, so if we want to put them on the hot seat, if anybody's got anything for them real quick, we can, and then they can get on to their more important meetings, I guess.
I will go quick.
Uh,
FCDC, I was curious what a certified site means.
Sure. Actually, I'm glad you asked that question. Good afternoon, commissioners. Certified site is a program through the state of Kansas, and basically what we do is compile a lot of information about, in this case, Proximity Park. A lot of the research that's been done on it. a lot of local data, just, it's really intensive. And so I started that about a year and a half ago and realized real fast I couldn't do that myself. And so a bunch of us in smaller communities reached out to the state and had some conversations, and I think maybe there are already conversations going on, but Commerce decided to offer a grant program for us to where if we wanted to apply for certification, they would give us 50% match. And so we've been able to get that, and I hired Bartlett and West. And we worked with Braun Intertech as well. They did some more updating on reports, and so got all that compiled and submit for certification. We actually did that Friday. But what it does is when the state's getting an inquiry from an industry about looking in the state of Kansas, they'll look at the industrial parks that are a match and or could be a match, and the ones that are certified move to the top of the list. So by getting this certification, it puts us toward the top of the list when the state has an inquiry. It's another way, part of what this does too, is and what the lieutenant governor said in the meeting the other day is speed is the new incentive. This speeds up the process because all the work's done as far as a lot of the research that they want. It's already there. The state can give it to them. I can give it to them. So it does a couple of things. One, it really puts us toward the top of the list with the Commerce Department. Two, it really helps speed things. So is that?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. But yeah, I'm excited. We got final report from Braun Thursday and we submitted on Friday. So now we're just waiting to hear back from the state, which we should get certified and hopefully before the end of the year, we'll have a certified site. So. Yeah. Anything else for me?
That's all I have for those two.
Does anybody else have any questions for either Vanessa or
I've got
Pauline?
something for Vanessa.
Please.
Yeah, just real quick. You can tell us a little bit about the Biao, how it went,
Thank you.
and also the relationship with Manhattan, how that developed and what that means for a local shelter.
Yes, I'm glad you asked, because I would have butted in anyway. So Bao Meow raised about $63,000 in an evening, so that's huge. It was our biggest night for ticket sales I think that we've ever had. So that's awesome. That venue is amazing. I don't know if anyone has not been to the Bottle House for an event, but make sure you go to one because it's a really great venue to have in our town. Yeah, so we're thrilled. That was a big success. With Manhattan, it's been really great to see already some decreased expenses. So what we know about Prairie Paws is it's a huge, wonderful facility and it's located in a place with not a lot of population density and not a lot of people here to fund it through tax dollars and donations. So we needed to scale quickly and appeal to larger group of people. And the best way to do that, the quickest way to do that was to add a location in a densely populated area. And Manhattan was willing to give us a chance. So we've signed the agreement. We take over operations Christmas Eve, which is a terrible day to do anything. But that's the beginning of a pay period for us and also the end of a pay period for them. So we're hiring all the team out there, assuming all the expenses and all of the revenue. But from just a economy of scale perspective, not every expense doubles when you add a location. Things like insurance, workers' comp, they increase a tiny bit, but what you get back in the revenue of serving two communities pays itself back and more. So we're already seeing things like insurance being cheaper across both locations, workers' comp being cheaper, legal, HR, accounting. All of those expenses that we can leverage across two locations are lower than for both communities than if both communities were paying those expenses by themselves. And then, you know, what we're really excited is to just fundraise in that community and get things like K-State tickets donated that we can't get out here. Get a bunch of, get a bunch of really cool items donated out there and
Are football tickets worth anything?
to me, it'll just be me and Mike just fighting over 'em. Yeah, so to fundraise in that community will be big, and that government has been great to work with. And then we're also going to partner with all of these other smaller municipalities in the area like Wamego, Pot County, Riley County has been great to work with. So by forming a bunch of smaller municipal partnerships, we're basically duplicating the model we have out here. And I think we'll see financial sustainability for both places. I think we've successfully shaken every donated dollar out of every person that lives in Franklin County. It's time to go shake some money out of some other pockets. But, you know, we wouldn't have got there without the support of this community. So we're thrilled. So excited, yeah.
And I like your sign up by Wellsville too. That looks good. I see it
Yeah,
every day.
yeah, that's gonna move. I think they're gonna move us. When you get a billboard basically for free, you put it wherever they let you put it.
That's
So you're gonna see that one shipped around I-35 a bit, I think.
great. Good job.
Yeah. Did anyone else have anything for me?
Thank you.
Letting me go.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Pretty good.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Yes. Commissioners, anything else for Paul Bean? Paul, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Clayton.
The next two that I had were for Chief Weingartner. Just wanted to say I saw we hired 2 police officers. We did. So that is exciting. And then just a question on the grant that you submitted for the use of force virtual reality equipment, what that is. That sounds really cool.
It is pretty cool. So it's a VR headset that ties into a program and software where an officer can wear the headset, be in a virtual reality situation, or you can actually record your own scenarios and upload them into the computer program. So the officer could be, so for example, if we wanted to record City Hall and put the officer in a use of force scenario, that would allow them to see like they were here, use equipment like they carry, a handgun, a rifle, a taser, pepper spray, a baton, and interact with the virtual reality scenario to achieve the outcomes. We have a very old, outdated machine in our basement right now that was donated to us by a federal law enforcement agency that uses our range for their firearms qualifications. And it's great. It is better than not having one. But the advancement of the technology that's out there is tremendous. So we met with the vendor for the last few years. And the vendor notified us about this grant opportunity for that. And so we put together a package. It did require a partnership with a research university. And fortunately for us in the state, Fort Hays State University is what's been designated as a national de-escalation training center. So there's several of them around the country with a program to teach and focus on law enforcement de-escalation. So it was a perfect opportunity to partner with them. So if we're awarded the grant through our use and Fort Hays State, we will develop a program that will roll out throughout the state for this type of interaction training. And what we hope to do is build an outdoor space at our police range where we could actually use the headset in an outdoor environment and put the officers in as real of a situation as we can to make those use of force decisions.
Awesome. That's cool. Thank you.
About the day after I submitted the report, the DOJ extended the grant deadline. So that's not good. I was really hoping that we would be hearing something since October 1st is the funding deadline. So I'm not sure what that means for us long term, but I know several other communities that have already been notified that they did not receive the funding. And we have not received that notification yet, so we're still in the game.
Awesome. Thank you.
Chief, did you have time to ask if you got priority points for, no, seriously, for submitting on time?
I don't know that.
Okay. Might not hurt to ask.
Yeah.
That was all that I had.
Is with the 2 new officers, does that leave you any vacancies?
Currently have 2
2
vacancies.
vacancies. Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Skidmore.
Sure, I think on page, where we at, 21, the interest income, Rebecca, that's always a good report to see. Appreciate you putting that together. Compared to last year at this time, and where we're at with the third quarter, I was impressed with that number there. Quite a change from last year. When I look at that near the 0 line of July 1st, all the way up to where we're at end of September.
Yeah.
Then stay with us. On the investments, though, did I see those somewhere? I didn't see it. What we have total investments right now in our title funds.
Yeah, so I brought my
got
September
that.
reports with
You
me as well. So I could be armed and ready to go for this question. So at the end of September, we had approximately 19.6 million invested. Now some of that did mature. And we rolled some of it out of the pooled investments to make our bond payment on October 1. But each month we look at keeping that sweep account with 3 months of operational funds in it. So we just kind of keep that in gear and look at it each month. And if we have more to invest, we do.
Good. And then we're on that sweep account, what rate are we at in that 3.5 or 3.75?
It's 3.25.
3.25. Okay. Yeah. Good. That was a great improvement on that. Then on our debt report, I don't know if it's much more trouble to put the rate we're paying next to like the maturity. I just kind of like to see what our rate we're paying on each of these bonds.
Yeah.
and If that's an easy way to do it, and I'll just put that down below here too, just what kind of rate we're paying on that.
Okay, I can add that.
All right, appreciate that. And then, I'm looking anything else on, nope, that's on the money side, so thanks. We have those, numbers for the idle funds, you say, you're gonna pass that around, or is that
Oh, these were my notes, but I can get them to you.
just get some
Okay.
time? I'd like to see that. Thanks.
She's not giving you notes.
Yeah.
She's saying you can't have her notes.
Commissioners, good morning. There is a monthly financial report that goes out that has all of that same
Oh.
detail in it that you're looking for.
And that would
We
be,
summarized it a little bit more to put it in for the quarterly reports because it's such a long, lengthy report.
okay,
But happy to make sure that you guys have the link to get that on the website.
let's see.
But every month those will be posted out there so you can have all the other detail that we're accustomed to getting in the monthly reports.
Great, thank you, that would be
Well,
great. Let's do that,
Anyone can read them because they're on the website.
all right. I will be glad to do that. On page 43, I just was surprised by something here. Yeah, that we picked up 140 tires out of the river. Wow, what's going on there? Thanks for doing it. Who's in charge of that? Thank you.
Michael.
Mike.
Michael and his.
All right, and where are these tires coming from?
I have no idea. To be completely honest with you, when we decided to do a river cleanup to help get us some points for our stormwater permit.
Yeah.
You know, as you drive across the bypass bridge, you look down there and you can see maybe 4 or 5 tires. I thought it'd be a quick in and out stream cleanup. And
Yeah.
What started out being a quick in and out stream cleanup ended up being almost a whole day. They pulled tire, and that was just from basically the shoal out there to the west side of the bypass bridge down to the curve over here. We didn't go around the curve out here. It was contained in that.
Wow. And no cars
So
were attached to these tires?
Yeah, no cars.
Okay,
Uh,
that's good.
But I would assume that it's just been years of, flooding activities washing.
Oh, I never.
There's, I can't picture people standing on a bridge and throwing them over.
Yeah.
Throwing them over.
In their spare time.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Must be retired people. Okay.
Only you can make that joke.
No,
right?
no. But thanks, Michael. I appreciate you taking care of that too. Page 54 on, there's a water reclamation, pictures and, who was responsible for that? That was a great idea, just to see what we're doing here. You got that, Dan?
Be Dan's
Good job,
guys.
Dan, I appreciate that. I think a lot of times we sitting in here sometimes, and I know I've taken a tour of it before, it's been many years ago, but just to see the pictures of the people working, what they're doing, that's, pictures worth 1,000 words, right? And so I think it's real good to see that. And I'd like to see many other departments do this, but it's a great idea to do this. And so thanks, Dan, for a good job for putting that together for us to see what's going on behind the scenes and a very important part of our community.
Kudos to Superintendent Levi Harn.
He's a guy.
He's the photographer.
And for him, he did a good job with all those. But anyway, I appreciate you putting that together. And then I think, yeah. And Michael, on streets, I know there's been a lot of street repairs going on, and I've driven by, I've seen some of those, and your department did a great job on that too. Thanks for all the work you guys put into that, and it looks great. And also the tree limbs, there's still a lot of tree limbs being trimmed that were hanging from the trees all over town and our parks, and I know a crew's been out taking care of them as well. The wind today didn't bring them down, but they'll get them down somehow, some way. But yeah, I appreciate you doing all that too. That's a real important part of our community cleanup. So.
We're at one now.
They draw one down.
Yes. Oh, there, right. Okay. Anyway, that's
Well, the tree fall, quite literally.
Oh, no. Okay. Very good. And that is all I had. Actually.
Thank you. Commissioner Graves.
Mike took several of mine. Some of my points, I also enjoyed the pictures, and on page 52, the picture of the pipe that is in the ground and how corroded it is amazing. So that was really interesting to see, and I think I'm a very visual person, so it's nice to see those pictures. And also I had marked the same thing about the 140 tires in the river. And so I was just gonna encourage people to stop throwing tires in the river and to stop shoplifting apparently, because those numbers are pretty darn high. So, that's it. Stop shoplifting, stop throwing tires in the river.
Shoplift the tires.
Well, I was wondering if they were.
From the river.
And
From the-
throwing-
from the-
From the
okay.
river?
Yeah, from the
or-
river.
From the
That's
river.
just shopping in the river.
Shoplift the tire, yeah, there you go.
Shop-
Just
and lift the
shopping.
tires.
Take the tires out of the river,
Shopping
please.
in the river.
Recycle the tires.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes, so my first just comment would be, I appreciate IT's report. I appreciate everybody's report, truly, I do. And I love the new format. And I think that if a citizen were to look at it, they too would be pleased, and really the vast amount of information that they get from going through these reports. It's impressive, certainly. And I know it doesn't happen just overnight. But I do think it's interesting on the IT department on 31, their page, and I added up the calls that were incoming from the public, and it was just under 8,000 calls in a quarter. And which comes down to, if we count just working days, that's 122 Monday through Friday working days, 122 calls, that's 15 calls an hour. And so there's somebody that is fielding that call, every single call. And so I think we need to remember that it's not, it's certainly 8,000 calls is not a small amount. And that's external calls. That's from the public. That's not internal, somebody here calls somebody here, within the city structure. That's from within the public, which I think is impressive. I too would piggyback on what Commissioner Graves had just said about the uptick in shoplifting and motor vehicle theft. Anything you can contribute that to, Chief?
Part of the shoplifting increase is a proactivity of loss prevention at Walmart, and just how good of a security team they have and how much work they're doing in the community to try to prevent it. We normally would not find those in a commercial setting without that type of loss prevention personnel being specifically dedicated to do that. Those shoplifting crimes would go undetected. Those goods would be traded on the market for drugs or other illegal activities that we would not be identified. So the fact that those numbers increase, while it does affect, what our overall crime rate will be, what it really does is prevent those people from having the goods to sell or trade for other crimes that probably impact the community more severely. And the auto thefts, those also include vehicles that are stolen from other communities that we find here with our license plate, because technically that's considered a possession of stolen property in our communities. So those numbers don't mean that it's cars specifically stolen from here. And we are finding those on our license plate reading systems. Again, by being proactive and having that, we expected to see some of those increases occur, and that's what you're seeing here again. So we look at the crime overall outside of those two. In 2022 was a tremendous year, and we're really on pace to have another great year on some of those things. We just do have those upticks because of being proactive.
Excellent. Thank you for that explanation. My next question would be, and it's not about tires, but it's on the same page. It's page 43, and it would be for Mr. Hafley. I appreciate the picture of the brush pile at Orlis Cox. Can you tell us about what happens to them? It doesn't just magically go away. Just because individuals got it out of their yard, what happens to that?
We have a burn permit that's issued by the fire department, and we burn the majority of it. Anything that can be set aside, like if you drive out there right now, I think there's still some pretty good sized logs out there that we set aside for people that want to come by and split it, use it for firewood. We do that, but the majority of it is burned in the burn pit.
All right, thank you. I also want to highlight for individuals who may have driven out by Proximity Park. I appreciate the picture of the new water tower that is going up, and it doesn't happen overnight, but it is slowly happening. So if you're wondering how that's working, I appreciate that picture, and I hope that we continue to get kind of a pictorial narrative watching the new water tower go up. Also may want to note that, within that report, there is, a estimated, chemical cost for, having the pool open this year, which came in at, over $15,000 for the year. So, and that is cost that, and I so appreciate former Mayor, Jackson bringing up that it's an amenity. We're never going to make money off the pool. We just won't. And that's not how it works. It's a quality of life issue. It's amenity. And part of that is that it costs to treat the pool. And this year it cost, over $15,000 to do so. Also, I know that, Commissioner Skidmore brought it up, but on page 56, and the pages right around there, I agree. I think preventative maintenance is a huge thing. I appreciate the pictures, the water reclamation facility put in there. But I would also encourage citizens that if, I've taken the tour of the water reclamation facility, I don't know, 3, 4 times. It is amazing to go in and see how that works. And actually, I would encourage any citizen that wants to see part of their city working. You can request a tour. You can't walk in, they don't do walk-ups, but you can certainly request a tour, and I would encourage citizens to do that so that they're informed. Lastly, I appreciate Terry. Thank you for putting the detail about what you're getting in grants. That is hugely helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that is all.
I don't have anything to add to what's already been asked. Do any of the directors here want to speak up on anything that they have, would like to pass on?
I'll give a little
Sarah?
update.
Thank you.
So Main Street has been busy. Oh, sorry. My vision is off, as you can tell. So we currently have 35 members. We have still been working on that. We have been, I've been going to quarterly Main Street meetings. This last week, I was in Dodge City with the tourism. I went before the county and got some funding to go to the tourism conference because it was in conjunction. The biggest things we've been working on is we teamed up with the chamber and did the scavenger hunt during the car show. The community really liked that. We had 18 businesses participate. We teamed up with Lily's and did a pumpkin patch, and we had 30 different families come out and paint pumpkins. Our third Thursdays have really been growing. We, in August, had 11 businesses participate. September, we had 23, and last week on October, I had 29 businesses participate. We're seeing a lot of people traffic wise, throwing axes last week was a good success as well. We had roughly 60 people throwing axes. On Saturday, we have our spook parade on October 28th from 10 to noon. And then we have the costume contest following at Legacy Square. Our Christmas parade is set for the same way as last year, following the mayor's tree lighting ceremony. November 25th, as soon as the lights come on, our theme this year is gingerbread houses. We're kind of correlating it a little bit more and making uniform through the town and hopefully having our corners decorated in gingerbread houses as well. A few other details that are coming out on that. We are still looking for some judges. I know some of you said you could, some of you couldn't. We've added some more board members and we're growing our committees. So as much as I feel like we are hitting the ground running and we're doing some good things, we still have a lot of work to do. So I would say that the partnerships that we've had in the community, the feedback from the community is really well on that. They're liking seeing us working together with other people. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you. Any other director? All right, as I say every month, a little different now, it's 153 pages of valuable information, as Commissioner Kaler mentioned a little bit ago. If you don't think anything's happening in our small little town, I disagree. And there's 153 pages that'll prove that there is a lot going on. So Thank you, directors, and department heads for getting us the information that we have in here. I implore the public to read all this information and see what's going on. Commissioners, I also want to thank you all for some of the comments that you've made today about some of the things that you do like in the report and some things maybe that you don't like. I've had a few folks reach out to me that have some of the input in this, and they're, with all this new information that's here, they're not 100% sure what we want to see and what we don't want to see. So hearing some of the positive feedback about what you like is great, and I think it will give them some guidance on how to move forward. So thank you. All right, comments by our city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners. Two items to highlight, really. The first is that we did complete the RFP for the fiber, which we had 2 bids, and we're undergoing a formal review later this week at staff level. And then the others regarding utility operations, as we kind of touched on previously, we've had some strains on the electric distribution system continue to materialize following the July 30th storm event. Most recently this past weekend. Today, we experienced an outage that was caused by a 12-inch diameter tree breaking in half and falling onto the power lines, which essentially severed the entirety of circuit 12, and that resulted in an outage impacting approximately 1,275 customers, mostly in the downtown core area, and the duration lasted anywhere from 45 to 90 minutes, depending upon your location. I did include a photo image of that was taken by our electric distribution superintendent, Ed Thompson, and you can see the tree up toward the top third that broke in half. So it wasn't from a lack of maintenance or trimming. It's just that where that failure occurred, it was going to fall one way or the other, and unfortunately it fell the one spot it could have fallen, which was on that circuit line. And so grateful to our guys for getting out and getting power restored as expeditiously as possible. Also want to highlight that the north end of the system experienced an outage yesterday on Saturday 21st, and that lasted between 12:17 p.m. to 1:47 p.m. on circuit 8, and that was in between 2 phases. That was again caused by a large tree limb that had fallen onto the line. And then after consulting with our electric engineer, Ed, and our power plant superintendent, Dave Hunsaker, as well as our utility director, Dan Riney, the verifying the conditions were present to proceed. This morning at 10 a.m., the line distribution crew, we were able to separate approximately 90% of the residential load on the south side of Circuit 8 from the Northeast Industrial Park. So the Northeast Industrial Park will continue to be fed from that Northeast substation, which I provided an image of as well. And you can kind of see that substation is in green on the right-hand side, where you see both the red and the yellow going in there on the kind of 1/3 of the way up on the right-hand side, right across from the American Eagle facility. That's the substation that feeds that industrial park. So essentially the red lines from about Dundee on up, as well as encapsulating west of Maine, pretty much captures most, if not all, of that now unto itself, with the remaining residential lines being carried on their own circuit, which you can kind of see just vaguely next to the legend with the scale for 1 to 500 feet. You'll see, notice on that second 2.4, there's 2 little green boxes there, and those are how we were able to separate the circuit to try and minimize the impact of falling trees. And so Ed reports that approximately 90% of the residential load was removed from our industrial park circuit there at the Northeast Industrial Park. So we're hopeful that this will reduce many of the incidents occurring within that circuit, but on our side, there still may be some issues related to specific facility operations and the processes utilized, creating what's called harmonics, and that necessitates the need for both internal harmonic mitigation and surge protection that's on the business side of the meter. So we're encouraging folks for that, and Dave is working with the electrical engineer to generate a public education campaign that will be specific to customers that may be affected by this, and provide also a rate of return on that investment in safeguarding their equipment. So, case in point might be you spend 600,000 or 1.2 million, but you know that you'll recoup that cost within 6 months to a year, given some of the factors that the load factor that will enable them. It's, I guess, the way it was explained to me, which makes perfect sense, is when you buy say a beer, you're buying 12 ounces and you'll get about 1 inch worth of foam. And that foam means you're actually only, with the beer being your factor load, you're actually paying for 12, but only using 11. Well, when harmonics is occurring, you're essentially getting significantly less than that. So you may be paying, say, 6 or 8 ounces of that 12, and then the remainder of that beer would be the foam. So by having these in place to reduce that factor load, as well as the additional protective measures that are common throughout facilities, not just local or specific to Ottawa, you're then able to capture what you're actually using versus paying for additional strain and consumption on equipment that's really being lost in the process.
So going forward, this should hopefully eliminate the issues we've had with North Industrial Park.
On our side of the issue, yes, there could always be something on their side of the meter, but again, there's additional items that we're currently taking, and we're still working to refine the additional scope to study the impact on those substations and changes that we can do both in our system and outside of our system that will enable us to, again, better serve our customers and community, and also by providing them through education ways to save money and to invest in their own operations. So that they understand that it's an opportunity to create a long-term savings. And even though that's costing us money, because we're a municipal energy company or utility, we're not an investor-owned utility. Our place comes from the point of trying to make Ottawa as attractive of a business environment that we can, and operating it in as near of a nonprofit operation as we can, given depreciation and equipment replacement and those kind of things, as opposed to trying to maximize shareholder value and creating, share value for private individual investors. So we're trying to keep it as beneficial as possible.
If we communicated that with Paul, because I know sometimes Paul gets calls from our North Industrial Park about electrical issues. I know at the last board meeting, he discussed that. And so sometime whoever goes, I guess.
Well, we've been throughout the entirety of this, and I can defer to Dan as well, been in communication with those facilities. We've also requested that they let us know so that we're not going out 2 to 3 people removed from the city, because even when they contact me on my cell phone, I still then have to reach out to either Dave or Ed. And oftentimes, if it's pretty much real time, then they're still responding to the situation or circumstance. But also a lot of that too, the city's made investment in some analysis for individual companies there, that it remains to be seen whether or not they took the investment or protective measures that may have been required from that study to help safeguard their process as well.
Okay.
And I just had on that, the one kind of from this morning, just kind of a couple of asks, because looking at it, 1,200 customers and we have 65, so roughly 20% of town. I know I get a lot of feedback today from people. I think the phone system, I probably got overwhelmed because I know they said they called and it was down. If we can, in those situations, be a little more proactive in getting information out to folks, saying, we've identified the issue, it's a line that's down, there's trees. Because a lot of these folks, I think, businesses that I got calls from were nearing the middle of the day.
It was a bad time.
And it was
particularly
definitely
for
tough, and
restaurants.
so I think if we can improve our communication, blasting out saying, we don't have an ETA, we've identified the issue. Just those kind of things, I think would probably ease a lot of people's.
And that's something too that we're looking at the best way to do that. And I know Paul and Melanie and I have had several discussions, as well as in our city team meetings that we have on Tuesdays about rolling out a phone tree system. And right now we're in the process of assessing whether or not we can easily transfer utilities into that system. So when someone's existing in our system or when they sign up for our utility service, we have current contact information rather than having to manually enter that information. And what that does then is enables us to either utilize through the use of a mapping system to draw polygons or shapes to call and notify individual customers within that area. And to do so by both text message, voicemail, and email. And then to not only do that, but to verify receipt. And if you leave a voicemail on phone or on a landline, that it then notifies us as the sender as to what was specifically left and remaining. It's just making certain that the two systems can mesh, and that's something that we are working on. And the other item that we've talked about too is better utilizing our, in the meantime, existing text session. But the thing that we would want to encourage with respect to getting more rapid communication out is that oftentimes that will be incomplete information, or it may even be not entirely correct information, because you know, when you have a circuit that's down today, it was most likely easily identified but they still had to go out and walk that line, and they've got a way that they can kind of tell where it might be. But it's still oftentimes, particularly if you've got fuses or insulators or whatnot that may be causing some of the problems, they have to go out and visually inspect each one. And so, you know, if you've got 4 electric lines running by and you've got 4 insulators on every line, that's a lot of visualization. Or as we've seen with what happened on the 21st of September, which caused an outage, there was, or I'm sorry, the 21st. I'm getting them confused because one was the railroad that cut the tree down. I can't remember if that was the 21st or the 28th of September. But the other one was there was microfractures and an insulator that you couldn't visualize from the ground, and that ultimately was one of the causes. So
I think
we certainly
yeah.
want to improve that, and that is a goal that we are working at and trying to systematize that as much as possible. And I think once we are able to field technology and also complete the rollout of our smart meters on the electrical side, we should be able to get more real-time information as far as what's happening, why and when, and possibly even an estimated duration for outage.
Yeah, I think, and not to discredit any of that, I think until those systems are in place, if we could just say we don't know, you don't know those insulators, those issues, I think we need to be proactive and tell people that we are aware of an issue, is my ask. Because I think a lot of times we seem really reactive, and we're
Yeah.
really being reactive because power is down. But telling people we are aware, I think would help probably ease how many calls come into that line, I would hope. But I would say before those systems are truly in place, I think this would be a way we could bridge that gap. Is just trying to get some information to people.
Yes.
And that's feedback that I've heard is that, you know, it's tough. People call and they call 3 times and it's like, you've already called once. And I think getting information out to let people know that we are working on an issue, even if we don't have a deadline, they at least know that something's going on.
And I agree. I'm sorry if I didn't sound
No,
like I
no,
was
that-
agreeable to that, because that's something too that we are working on and trying to better utilize social media. And unfortunately, we're not always aware until we start getting phone calls or text messages here. So that's something that we will create a more streamlined process, and I'll follow up at the next study session on the 30th with how we will be communicating that going forward. And obviously, we'll fill it out between now and then, once we get that identified tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You have any additional comments?
No, sir.
Thank you. Comments by city commissioners, Commissioner Kaler.
Last weekend or at the end of last week, together with, city manager Sokot, Dave, Rocky, Jeff, Dan, all of us attended the, KMGA annual conference. And Mr. Hunsaker, Dave Hunsaker, sits on the executive committee. And I appreciate all of them attending that with us, and as a group, the city of Ottawa is stronger with their leadership. We did learn a lot about parts of the bipartisan infrastructure law and the opportunities that are going to come about with that, with the Inflation Reduction Act and the NEVI plan for the state of Kansas, and things that we continue to learn about. But I do think that we'll see some benefits from the BIL in our community, hopefully relatively soon. That is it.
Thank you. Commissioner Graves,
I have no comment.
Commissioner Clayton.
Just the announcement that the Spook Parade is this weekend downtown. So I know there's several going on in the community, but one to check out as well. And then if you don't have your float in for the Christmas parade, make sure you get that in as well, because we need as many as possible. We're waiting for yours. I'm just- with all of them.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Skidmore.
I just have a couple things on the chicken ordinance. I've had a lot of people reach out to me on this, and it looks like to me there's just a couple of simple fixes on this that would appease to the people that are looking at raising eggs, chickens with eggs. And they should go together, right? I'm not sure which one came first, but anyway, that's not important. But the one was about the 50 feet from any other building. Just 3 words, if we could strike those, and then strike the C regarding there shall be no outdoor slaughtering of chickens. Just we'll strike that and let them take care of them. I know someone said they can sell them at an auction at Garnett. They sell hens there. Some people have told me they don't even eat them, so no need to slaughter them, just they'll sell them. I don't know what they'll do with them. And so I don't know, I just can't see where, indoor slaughtering is, it can't be accepted. I've seen chickens slaughtered and I know it can be messy. It's not something you put in a kitchen to do or garage or anywhere. So that would be my proposal. If we want to talk about it now, next week, next month, next year, I'm open to that. But those are the 2 things seem to be, I mentioned that to several people. What if we struck those 2 items and majority of them said that would be fine. They're happy with it. From that point on, some wanted more chickens, some wanted different restrictions, but those seem to be the 2 primary issues that people had. And that's all I had. Oh, wait, one more thing. On the baby box, if we were to donate 5,000, where would that, do we have a fund where that could be drawn from?
If that is something that you as a commissioner are interested in, we will go back and look for a place that could be drawn from, but I tell you, I wasn't sure where we're headed with that conversation, so we would be looking for your direction as commissioner.
I guess I'd like to see what fund it would be and how much that would affect us, and then we can make a decision on that maybe later.
It's certainly something I'd be interested in seeing where that would be funded from.
Be good
Commissioners.
partnership, sure.
Yeah.
And it's all right.
I have no additional comments. A few announcements. October 30th, next Monday, at 4 p.m. here at City Hall is our next study session, and then November 1st is our next regular meeting. Is there anything else to come before the commission? I'll adjourn.